I think our second speaker will be Peter's longtime assistant, Karen Johnson, who will now get up and say a few words. Let me steal my water.
No, I should be good. Thank you. I'm not quite as tall. I shouldn't have to bend as much. Friend, curmudgeon, brilliant, humble, fair, reliable, generous, Peter Davis in 6.5 seconds. Peter and what he said and thought mattered to a lot of us. 6.5 seconds that matter is Draft FCB's slogan that appears on our letterhead now, where Peter and I just celebrated 15 years of service in October. When I realized that Peter was so close to 60.5 years old when he passed, I thought it fitting that I speak in the ballpark of 6.5 minutes tonight. Annie said I could speak for as long as I like, and that's what I'd like. What mattered to Peter? He was a lover of spring flowers. It's great to see them here tonight. Old movies, five-star restaurants, lean cuisines, art, music, coffee, and only certain coffee, Jack Daniels, Cool Milds, mastering the puzzle called the Internal Revenue Code, his wife, siblings, nephews, deceased parents, having Lincoln Park as his front yard, watching the waves on the lake, outrageous humans, and the White Sox, not necessarily in that order. Before I relay two stories about Peter that I selected, I'd like to share what I realized this past weekend about our time together generally, and then a few things that Peter said yes to that I'm really grateful he did. When I realized I didn't know Peter's religious affiliation, we never talked about that in 20 years, it dawned on me that he truly lived the golden rule, which is at the base of all of the world religions. That isn't to say that he transcended the imperfect life of human beings. He certainly made a few, let's say, errors, including, sadly, somehow getting too close to the lakes Tuesday night. Yet he sought to make amends with anyone that suffered by anything he had said and done, within reason. We're all just going to have to forgive him for this last error. During these past 19.5 years I've worked with Peter, I occasionally wondered if my path might lead me to studying some remote Eastern spiritual master. Last Saturday I wondered, could it be at the East Campus of Draft FCB I was unknowingly studying with one of the most unorthodox of spiritual masters all along? He half joked a while back that he'd like me to respond to him with, "Yes, master!" To illustrate Peter's acumen for learning beyond law, finance, and business, when a couple weeks had passed and I hadn't honored his request, in spite of a few very fitting opportunities, he started responding to me with, "Yes, master!" After that, I started peppering them in here and there. These two brief stories center around the very few times Peter offered me advice over the years. First, you need to swear more often. The other, maintain your composure. They might seem contradictory, like a lot of things about Peter, yet they also might be all I need to know to carry me through these next years. The first was more of a diagnosis. You need to swear more often. It was 1994. We were still at Keck, Man and Kate, about a year before we came over to what was Cobb's and Draft, and I was experiencing some challenged behavior with one of the attorneys at Keck. So I was showing a lot of signs of stress, and that's when Peter gave his advice. Now, the day after he said that, I recall walking down Wacker Drive with one of my friends on the way to lunch, and just letting it all out with the vim and vigor of my teen years when my language was profanity-laden. He was right. The stress was gone. The second story was about 5 years into our time with Draft, when I stopped in his office to tell him I was on a way to a meeting, of which he was aware, with the human resource director and an employee with whom I was experiencing some challenging behavior. Peter simply offered, maintain your composure. I did. Everything worked out well in the end. When my brother and mother passed away, once reality set in, I started thinking about the things for which I was grateful that they had in their lives. I found myself thinking in this way about Peter the last few days. The Wednesday before he passed, he was so pleased with catching up on a few backlog items that he called me into his office and he declared it a good day. That somehow in the sea of clients and situations in life, he and Howard Draft connected. As challenging as it was at times, beneath the grumblings of his curmudgeon exterior, I believe he was glad to be where he was. Working with Howard was a big part of that. They had a somewhat annual White Sox game date with his brother Max. He'd be lit up for a day or more after that. That he would still go to a White Sox game with his brother Paul, even though there was a long-standing history of the White Sox losing when he did so. I learned tonight he kind of cleared. He went to the World Series, but when there were important parts, he needed to leave the stadium. That he said yes to his sisters or friends visiting him in Chicago, which got him out to plays and concerts, and reminded him how much he enjoyed quirky and outrageous people. That he experienced the joy of co-coaching the women's softball team at Keckman and Kate to an uncustomary victorious season. He enjoyed every single minute of it, even though he grumbled every time he had to leave a little bit early from the office. And while that unknown era near the lake Tuesday night, it can hardly be separated out, I'm still glad that he indulged the young at heart side of himself and went to the lake, one of his favorite aspects of Mother Nature, to see her in rare form. I've forgiven Peter for leaving us entirely too soon. Yet the reality that he's not going to be around anymore is just going to hurt for a while. Before I end, I'd also like to say how much I appreciated Peter's economy of words. Neither one of us liked BS. That might be why we were together so long. For example, the entire transition conversation from Keck to Draft totaled about 10 minutes over a 2-month period. It included, we'll be like partners. We were. Peter Davis will be missed in his life, love, and contributions will be celebrated for the next 60.5 years. Annie, the Peter Davis Memorial Fund is such a tribute to his generosity. Am I grateful for our shared journey, the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful? Yes, Master!